Thank you. It's my great honor to be here. Good morning, everyone. Today, I'm going to talk about the changes in traffic safety policies and regulations in China from 1950 to 2010. My presentation will cover the following contents: the background, traffic safety in China, policies and regulations, and finally, the conclusion. First, the background. In this part, I'll give a brief introduction to the economic growth, urbanization, and transportation development in China in the last 60 years. People's Republic of China was founded in 1949. At that time, the country was very poor, and the economy grew very slowly. In 1978, China started the policy of economic reform and opening up. Since then, the economic growth has accelerated. This figure shows the GDP and per capita GDP in China. In about 30 years, the GDP increased from 406 billion to 34,000 billion yuan in 2009, and the per capita GDP increased from about 400 yuan to 25,000 yuan. During this period, China was one of the countries with the highest GDP growth rate in the world. The rapid economic development was accompanied by a dynamic urbanization process. In 60 years, the total population had more than doubled, reaching 1.3 billion in 2009. The urban population increased from 57 million to 622 million in 2009. As a result, the urban population was close to half of the total population. That is 46.6% in 2009. The government had attached great importance to the development of the transportation. Since 1997, as the Asian economic crisis broke out, the government had increased the investment in transportation. In 1978, the highway length in China was about 890 kilometers, and in 2009, it was 3.86 million kilometers. The first freeway was built in 1988, and in about 20 years, it has the total length of the freeway had increased to 65,000 kilometers in 2009. As to the civil vehicles in China, it developed slowly before 1990. In 2005, it exceeded 30 million, and in 2009, the number was more than 60 million. There were no private vehicles before 1980, and in 2000, it increased to about 6 million, and in 2009, the number was about 45 million. The number of motor vehicle drivers increased to 137 million. All of this indicate that China is experiencing a rapid motorization process. These two figures show the passenger and freight transport by mode. The share of passenger kilometers by highway had increased from about 9% to 54% in 2009, and the railway decreased from 80% to 30%. As to the freight ton kilometers, the share by highway had increased from about 2% in 1952 to 30% in 2009. Okay, next I'll talk about the traffic safety in China based on traffic accident data. In this figure, we can see the number of traffic accidents, fatalities, and injuries. The curves are following a similar shape, first increase, then decrease. There are two peaks around 1987 and 2002. From 1982 to 1987 and 1995 to 2002, there were rapid increases in the numbers of traffic accidents and casualties. In 2001, the number of fatalities exceeded 100,000, and in 2002, it was 109,000, which was the highest in the history. Since then, the number of fatalities had been decreasing. In 2010, it was 65,000, which was still very high. The fatalities per 10,000 vehicles had been decreasing from 1970s, but the fatalities per 100,000 population had kept rising, and then decreased from 8.79 in 2002 to 4.89 in 2010. The decrease in the fatality rates indicate that the traffic safety is improving in China in recent years. However, compared with developed countries, the fatality rates in China were still very high. For example, in 2009, the fatalities per 10,000 vehicles was 3.63. For other countries, as shown in this table, they all have fatality rates less than 1. And considering that China has a population of 1.3 billion, the absolute number of fatalities in traffic accidents was much higher than other countries. In 2009, there were about 67,000 fatalities in traffic accidents in China, which is about twice of that in the United States. Pedestrians, motorcyclists, and bicyclists are the main victims in traffic accidents. China is still at the early stage of the motorization, so walking and riding bicycles and motorcycles are still important transportation modes for many people in the country. In 2010, the fatalities of motorcyclists, bicyclists, and pedestrians accounted for about 60% of the total fatalities in traffic accidents. Now let's look at the severe accidents. Severe accidents are accidents causing more than 10 fatalities. For example, in 1996, there were about 80 severe accidents in which about 1,300 people died. And in 2010, there were 34 severe accidents causing 461 fatalities. These severe accidents had very bad consequences. In recent years, the number of severe accidents had been decreasing, but the average number of fatalities per each accident was still high, which was about 15 fatalities per accident. A lot of fatal accidents happened at the nighttime, especially when there was no lighting. If some safety facilities could be provided to improve the driving condition at night, this kind of accidents may be reduced. The number of fatalities by age. As shown in this figure, about 48% of the fatalities in the age group of 21 to 45 years old. At the same time, the same age group caused about 78% of the fatalities. It should also be noted that 11% of the fatalities were elderly people over 65. Traffic violations of the road users were the main reason for traffic accidents. For example, in 2010, about 96% of the accidents were caused by traffic violations of the road users. If we look closer, 91% was caused by motor vehicle drivers, 4% by non-motorized riders, and 1% by pedestrians and passengers. The top 3 violations for motor vehicle accidents are speeding, failing to yield, and unlicensed driving, which caused 10%, 17%, and 6% of the total accidents. At the same time, caused 14%, 12%, and 7% of the total fatalities. There are 3 important ministries related to traffic safety in China. Ministry of Public Security is in charge of the road traffic accidents. Ministry of Transportation is in charge of the planning, construction, operation, and maintenance of the highways and freeways. Ministry of Housing and Urban Rural Development is responsible for the planning, construction, design, and maintenance of the roads in the urban areas. The National Inter-Ministry Joint Conference on Road Traffic Safety was established in 2003 to promote the coordinations among different ministries and different agencies. The major responsibilities of National Inter-Ministry Joint Conference include analyzing the current situations of traffic accidents, developing medium and long-term strategic safety plan, proposing and carrying out countermeasures, providing guidance, and supervising the road safety work, and so on. Before the reform and opening up in 1978, traffic accidents were not a big problem in China. As the traffic accidents increased in the 1980s, the government realized the importance of improving road traffic safety. In 1986, the reform of road traffic management structure was announced. And in 1988 and 1991, the government issued road traffic management regulations and the disposition of road traffic accidents. In 2003, the road traffic safety law was passed. This was the first law on road traffic safety in China. Meanwhile, a number of traffic safety campaigns have been conducted nationwide to reduce traffic accidents. To list just a few of them, the 5 improvements and the 3 enhancements in 2004 by the Ministry of Public Security, counties and districts with safe and smooth traffic in 2005 by the Ministry of Public Security and the Ministry of Transportation, and enhancement of school bus safety in 2006 by Ministry of Education and Ministry of Public Security. I don't have time to talk about them in details. If you're interested, the details can be found in our report. Okay, to summarize, the rapid economic development was accompanied by a dynamic urbanization process and a rapid development of road transportation in China. On the other hand, during the periods of 1982 to 1987 and 1995 to 2002, China experienced fast increases in the numbers of traffic accidents and casualties. The main reason of traffic accidents are the traffic violations of road users, especially the motor vehicle drivers. Laws and regulations on traffic safety have been issued since 1986, and a series of traffic safety campaigns have been launched since 2003. they have been proved to be effective in reducing traffic accidents and improving the road traffic safety. Thank you.